Alright, you guys, we're back for another week stock market recap, covering May 11th through the 15th. Last week when I did the video, I talked about how the SPY was hanging out around the 292 resistance area. So let's see here. So this is what the SPY looks like over the past 6 months. Came down hard, and then it's kind of just hovering around this range here between 296 and 278. Last week when I did the video, the market looked like this, and I said that if it broke above 292, 293 and hung out and ended up higher, that the market is telling you that it wants to keep going up. And then I said that if the market came down below 280 and it stayed down here, the market's telling you it wants to go down. But the market is not telling us anything because it is trading in a range between these two areas, 278 and 296. It's just kind of bouncing around, and if you draw a line right through the middle of it, it's trading around the 285 range. Okay, so right now it's kind of like wait and see mode. You know, next week we will get more clarity in regards to where the market wants to go, but for now it's just trading sideways. So this is where you can lose a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing, and you start buying up here because you think it's going up, and then it takes you down here and you sell down here, and then you short down here because you think it's going down, and then it rips up higher, and you lose your money, right? So it's kind of wait and see mode. You don't want to do too much this week, especially in the beginning of the month. I said that the market is going to sell off in May because sell in May and go away for the summer. Traders will go on vacation and park their money in gold. Well, we saw a sell-off this week, and this is what it looked like. Let's just take a look at the past 5 days. So the market sold off on Tuesday, sold off again on Wednesday, and then on Thursday it dumped down to 273. It kind of just flashed there really quickly. It didn't really trade down here. It was just like one tick down, and then it reversed up higher and ended right at the 285 area. So this is kind of wait and see mode still. If we break below 280 and we start hanging out down here around the 275 area, the market's telling you it wants to go down. Okay, so what did I talk about last week? I talked about MARK. That was a stock that I wrote in my weekly email with the thermal camera technology, and it looked like this on it looked like this. It was at $1 on Friday, and I said, this thermal camera technology, I can see this being used in stadiums and schools, grocery stores. The casinos are taking on this technology because it scans for people's temperatures as they're walking in. You don't want someone to stand there and scan every person's head as they walk in. That would take too long. So this company makes a technology for thermal cameras and a detection technology where people just keep walking in, right? It scans people's temperatures without having them to stop. So it can do about 120 people in a minute. So that's pretty good. So I saw that there was huge potential for this one, and then on Monday morning it doubled. If you had taken this, my recommendation for this one, it doubled your money. On the second day, it got up to 268, and then this is where short sellers feel like, okay, this one went up way too fast, which it did. You kind of just want it to kind of gradually go higher, but this one went up way too fast, and then the short sellers piled in and nothing but selling on Tuesday, and then it hovered around, and then more selling on Wednesday, and then it kind of just hung out at around the 240 250 range, and then a slight sell-off toward the end. I think this is a short seller who wants traders to think that, okay, this is done, and then hoping for a gap down on Monday where, you know, when you see this collapse, and it's like, okay, I'm out of here, and they want to get rid of it on Monday morning. So what do I think about this one? I'm in it. I still like it. I think the technology is there. I think it's useful. I think it'll catch on. I think this run-up was really overblown. It was exuberant. It was too fast. But I think if it holds this 140 range, it could potentially start to drift back up higher. And when it gets around $2 and $2.50, this thing's probably going to start skyrocketing. Okay. This thing does have a lot of potential. You know, it's been at $15 in the past, but you can see that every time it pops, it fades off, right? It pops here, fades off. So it pops here, it could potentially fade off. So therein lies the risk. But it does have potential to get up to 15, because here, you know, it had a pop, faded off, you know, kind of got a little quiet, and then, you know, it absolutely ripped. So looking at the volume candles here, you know, this could potentially have more room to run. You just have to be patient with this one. There was a stock called Codex. This one. Okay, let's take a look at this one. This one was real quiet. It was a penny stock. It was $1 as well. See, this one popped, and then it was pretty quiet, right? You know, it popped. It was pretty quiet, and then it hung out in around the threes, and then all of a sudden, you know, it popped up huge, right? And this is people getting squeezed, you know, and the short sellers coming in to sell it back down, and then it kind of hung out around the 10s, the 9s, and then it floated back up higher, and then it went all the way to 29. You see how that, you know, this is kind of like where MARK is right now. So it popped up, sold off, you know, and now it's kind of quiet, right? It's kind of quiet, and then it starts floating up back higher, and then it rips up higher. So we're kind of like in this zone right here for MARK. So you kind of want to be patient if you're going to stick with it. But again, it is a gamble. It's a penny stock. You know, it doesn't have a lot of customers right now, but I mean, it does have a huge potential for use in like huge in places where there's a huge amount of people, right? So yeah, I mean, the potential's there. So this one, I can see this, you know, selling off a little bit back down to $1, and then like kind of hanging out, floating, and then eventually creep back up. Maybe, you know, earnings here will help it up. Who knows? Maybe they'll take it back down to 40 cents, and we'll never hear from it again. But all the casinos are starting to utilize this technology. Disneyland is one of their customers, which is huge, right? So, you know, the fact that, you know, Disneyland wants their technology is, you know, pretty reassuring that I think this has huge potential to keep going up. What else am I looking at? DKNJ. This is DraftKings. A couple weeks ago I talked about this. I was talking about this when it was, you know, I said, you know, IPO, this thing came out around 22 and it's sitting at 23. I think this was actually 2 weeks ago I talked about this, and I said this, you know, this one has potential, you know, just like the casino stocks, these guys, you know, the online gambling, you know, it doesn't, you don't have to be in a casino to do business with these people. It's all online betting. So this one, you know, if you had taken in around 23, like I talked about a couple weeks ago, you'd be up. you know, roughly $5 a share, and that's pretty huge, right? So this one I actually still do have a position in it. I sold some puts up at 30 because I do think it's going to get there within the next month. I mean, you know, it is trending up higher, and it probably hit $30 on Monday. Who knows? So my puts will be in the money probably next week, earliest Monday, and I make an easy $1,000, you know, just by selling $30 puts, you know. And all I have to do is hold on to those puts until June, and it'll probably be $40-50 by then. What else am I looking at? Pinterest. This one had a lot of call buying, a lot of call sweepers, a lot of options being hit on the call side, and it was all of yesterday. Today there was huge call buying. They were looking at, like, you know, here's a call sweep right here. They bought up 347 contracts. That's 34,700 contracts at 45 cents, and they're saying that this thing's going to go to $20 by June. What is this one? It's a put sweep. This one's saying that it's going to 14, so this is the opposite trade of the other guys. But just today there was a ton of call sweeps. Yesterday there was a ton of call sweeps. So there might be something brewing with this one. We might want to keep this one on watch. It did have earnings. It did miss. It's an earnings loser, apparently, based on what happened after earnings announcement. You know, it kind of just drifted up higher, and then faded back off. Maybe it got shorted back down. But based on the calls flow, this thing's got something brewing. You know, I don't know what it is, but you know, it potentially could go up higher. So you may want to watch for this one. Probably, you know, if it gets back up to $19-20, this thing could potentially go back up past 22. We don't know. There was something about Shopify being able to sell to Pinterest customers. I think I saw some news about that. Maybe that's helping it along, but the price targets for this company is in the 20s. See, this 20 here from Baird, Wedbush 21, Nomura 28. So this thing, they think this is fairly valued in the low 20s. Let's take a look. So yeah, I mean, you know, this thing kind of faded off beginning of the year. It was around 22-ish. So I mean, it is fairly valued, and you know, it's kind of cheap here. Yeah, I mean, based on the flow of the options, this thing could potentially keep going up higher. Let's see. Talked about Peloton. This was a while ago. I was trading this one around the 20s, the high 20s. Yeah, I saw this a long time ago. This one, if it broke 36, this thing would rip. And I think this was like, when was this? Yeah, late April I was trading this thing. I took it off a chart and I didn't see it, but had I seen it right here at 36, you know, I probably would have taken this. I mean, it's got that ABCD look to it. You know, it's got that huge run up. You know, it's got that, it sold off, hung out, and then trended back up higher, and then broke above this recent high, and then now it's popping up to $50 a share. So yeah, I mean, this is, I think this play is done though. I could see it coming back down for a little bit and then maybe going back up, but I think this one is done. What else did I look at? Right now, the hot picks right now are actually the pot stocks. I think next week is going to be a huge week for pot stocks because Aurora Cannabis actually had earnings, and this one's an earnings winner. So this one, after earnings, it popped up huge. Had I seen this, I probably would have taken it here as an ABCD breakout. right here, if I had seen this, probably would have taken it here at 780 for the breakout, and then it's got that ABCD look again. You know, it's got that run up, sell off, and then it's just trending up higher, and then you buy it here for the breakout, and then here's another breakout, and then it does it again, right? Sells off, starts curling back up, and then you buy it here on the breakout. That would have been a failed breakout, and then it would just be trending sideways. So I took a sympathy trade. This company, Canopy Growth Corporation. This one is a pot stock that has a huge ownership from Constellation Brands. Constellation Brands is the one that distributes the Corona beers, Pacifico, Modelo. Constellation Brands injected $3.8 billion of cash into this company, so they do own a large portion of CGC. That's why I like it. This is a well capitalized company. They have a lot of cash on the balance sheet, and I took this one here as a sympathy play to ACB. A sympathy play is where, you know, if a company does well, companies in the same industry will also follow suit. They kind of move together, right? So if Canopy, let's say, were to have earnings next week, this thing would pop as well, because, you know, people saw what ACB did, and so they would also buy into CGC. So I took this one here, looking for a break of above $16 a share. You know, you're gonna have some resistance here at 19, but this one does have a lot of range. Let's see. Yeah, huge range. I think all the pot stocks were like this. You know, it was a huge, you know, it was a huge bubble, and then the bubble popped, and then now it came back down to you know, single digits. Now it's hanging around, but I think next week's going to be pretty huge for pot stocks. Tilray was the biggest pot stock of all, because this one actually went to about $300 a share. Look at that. See, this is a bubble. Bubble pops, fades, $2 a share, right? There's other ones like APHA, you know, pop, fade, right? There's a ton of pot stocks out there like this. CRON, same thing. So it was $1, you know, popped up huge, right? Got that ABCD look going to it, and then fades off, right? This one is actually a cool one too, because, you know, this one is backed by Altria Corporation. They're the ones who distribute like Marlboro cigarettes, right? They're the tobacco company. So this one has a big backer. Like, if I wasn't in CGC, I'd probably take a stab in CRON. I mean, they got a lot of money. They have like a 1.8 billion in cash or something like that. So this one, you know, if I wasn't in the other one, I'd probably buy this one as well. Let's see, anything else for next week? Let's take a look at some of the stocks that have been trading, like Boeing. I said Boeing was under $120 a share. If Boeing was at 120 bucks, lower than 120 bucks a share, it's probably a short. Well, this one broke below and it's hanging out, right? So this could be a potential short, because when we're looking at a range here, you know, I said it was a buy if it broke above 150, and it was a short if it broke below 120. Now here we are, right? It's kind of hanging out. So next week, if it dips a little bit more and it comes back up and bounces off the 120, comes back down, this one's a good short. Okay, let's take a look. Some old ones that I haven't looked at in a while, like OXY. This is an oil play. trading in a range, right in the middle of this $18 to $9 range, you know, right there in the middle. So can't touch it. Here up here is a buy, down here is a short. Again, if the economy's coming back in the summertime, there's going to be oil demand. This thing's going to float back up higher, and it's got some range up until 40. That's pretty much it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. If you want to be a part of my weekly emails, just message me, drop your email address, and I'll add you. All right, thanks guys.